Nicholas Kringle had a very unselfish wish. He wanted to make children happy. As a young man, one of his selfless acts of love was witnessed by angels, and his wish was granted. He would become known as Saint Nicholas and travel the world each Christmas Eve to deliver a gift of love to every boy and girl. Then, one day, a doll mysteriously appeared in the land beyond yon. Finding the doll startled the elves. But Nicholas knew how to solve the mystery. This is the continuing story of Nicholas. I know that it's true because I was there the whole time. In the land beyond yon, St. Nicholas and the elves stayed very busy. Each year, there would be more and more children and more wishes to fill. This, of course, made Nicholas and the elves very happy. One day, while collecting wood in the forest, Go found a beautiful doll beside a tree. Where did it come from? He wondered. Go carefully placed the doll inside his jacket and took it straight to Nicholas. Nicholas recognized the doll right away. He had made it for a young girl named Christina several years ago. Christina was very ill at the time. She had been wishing for a beautiful new doll, and her father thought that the doll would make her feel better. Nicholas made the doll and delivered it on a stormy night. But on the way home, he had a terrible accident. Nicholas knew that Christina would not be far from her doll, and he asked Go to take him to the place where he had found it. What he did not know, however, is that the doll had changed Christina's life. Christina was born unable to hear. When she tried to speak, she did not sound like the other children. They teased her and made fun of her. These children made her feel so badly that she seldom tried to speak at all. She named her new doll Rebecca. She could talk to the doll, and, of course, the doll never had anything bad to say to her. Rebecca soon became Christina's best friend. Christina loved to read. For her, reading was a great adventure that took her to all parts of the world. Sometimes she would imagine herself as the captain of a big ship. Other times, she would imagine that she was a fairy princess. The books were her friends as well as her teachers, and how she loved them. She would read stories to Rebecca every day. All this practice helped the girl to learn to speak quite well. In fact, Christina began to sound just like all the other children, even though she could not hear herself speak. Whenever a classmate was having a problem, Christina would be there to help. This was something she really enjoyed doing. It was not long before she had many friends. Years later, Christina became a teacher. This was a perfect job for her because she was surrounded by two of her favorite things in the whole world, books and children. She loved the challenge of helping each and every one of her students, and they all loved her very much. Christina's illness never completely left her. Sometimes it would challenge the girl, and she would become very, very sick. These were the times that she would hold Rebecca, and her thoughts would return to the boy who made the doll for her. It was her greatest wish to meet Nicholas and tell him how the doll had changed her life. After all, she knew the terrible price the boy had paid to deliver Rebecca to her in that storm so many years ago. Somehow, Christina would always seem to get well again. However, each battle would leave her slightly weaker. Then, one day she felt very, very badly. Her illness was more than she could bear. Christina had never felt so terribly in her entire life. She held Rebecca as her father stayed at her side. Mercifully, she fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. That night, something wonderful happened. A beautiful, bright light shone through her window and onto Christina. She awoke, feeling wonderful. There was no more fever, no more aches, and no more pain. Christina had never felt so well in her whole entire life. She sat up as she heard the cooing of a white mourning dove. Why, for the first time ever, she could hear. The beautiful light dimmed to a bright sunny day. Christina wanted to tell everyone what had happened. However, no one was there. She found herself in a forest. Christina called out, but no one answered. She decided to start walking to see if she could find someone. Her newfound hearing overwhelmed Christina. The sound of the wind whispering through the trees, the chirping of birds, even the crunch of snow beneath her feet were all fascinating new sounds. Later, she decided to rest for a moment. She sat Rebecca on a small rock. She heard new sounds coming from a nearby tree, and she walked over to investigate. She laughed at the antics of two squirrels. A few minutes later, she returned to the rock, but Rebecca had disappeared. Christina was very upset. She frantically began to search for the doll. She saw small footsteps in the snow and decided to follow them. Sometime later, it began to snow very hard and the wind blew directly at Christina. The snow stuck to her like glue and she became covered from head to toe in pure white. The snow stopped for a moment and the sun shone directly on her. Just then, Nicholas and Go came around a bend and they stared at her. She was so beautiful that she looked like an angel dressed in white. "Hello," said Nicholas as he took Rebecca from his pocket. "You must be Christina." This was the very first human voice she had ever heard. She thought it was the most wonderful sound of all. "I am Christina, but who are you and how did you know my name?" she asked. Nicholas explained that, as a boy, his only wish was to make children happy. Delivering Christina's doll was an act of kindness that had been witnessed by angels. His wish was granted by having him travel the world every year on the night before Christmas to deliver a gift of love to every girl and boy. This would not only make all the children happy, but it would also remind them of the true meaning of Christmas. He had also been given the gift of time to make this task possible. Christina knew that her wish had been granted. Nicholas and Go took Christina to the lodge. She was only the second person to ever visit the land beyond yon. The elves were all very happy to see her. Nicholas gave Christina a grand tour of the lodge. She was very happy to be there, and when they arrived at the wish room, where Luigi was working, she was surprised to see all the letters from children around the world. She offered to help sort them out. Nicholas accepted her offer, and each day they would work together. In the evenings, she would read stories to the elves after dinner. Nicholas and Christina became very fond of each other, and as things happened, they fell in love. One day, Nicholas asked her to marry him. Christina hugged him as she exclaimed, "Yes." They decided to marry on the day before Christmas, and they began to make plans for the wedding. The doll maker made a beautiful white wedding outfit for her. She also made a new outfit for Nicholas. There was a giant cake, roast beast, cookies, pies, and all sorts of treats. The elves decorated the walls and tables. Everyone helped to make this a most special event. Finally, it was December 24th. Go escorted Christina down the aisle. Nicholas took her hand, and the service began. A few minutes later, the words were spoken, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." They kissed each other, and the elves cheered loudly. When people married, it was common practice to go on a wedding trip, or honeymoon, as it was commonly called. Nicholas made an announcement. Christina would be going with him to make the Christmas Eve deliveries. Christina was delighted. After all, he had told her that he had a wonderful surprise for her. Later that day, the elves loaded the sleigh. The newly married couple climbed aboard, and Nicholas surprised Christina by handing her the reins. They shouted, "Up, up, and away!" And away they flew. The elves all cheered and waved as Christina and Nicholas waved back. At their first stop, Nicholas climbed down off the sleigh. Christina handed the gifts to Nicholas, and he placed them at the front door, as he had always done. "Are you just going to leave them there?" she asked. "Why not?" he said. Christina reminded him that they could be damaged by snow or rain or wind, or by any number of things. Nicholas decided to put the gifts inside the home. Christina loved to fly the sleigh and deliver presents. They visited home after home, and they were enjoying every minute of their trip. After all, both the wishes had come true. But then, it happened. As they visited one of the very last homes, a young child woke up and stepped into the room. The only light came from the glow of the fireplace. Chris was holding the door for Nicholas as he carried his sack outside. The child wiped his sleepy eyes and asked, "Who are you?" Christina looked back at the child and said, "My name is Kris Kringle. I wish you a very Merry Christmas." As the years passed, the child told his story over and over. Some people believed him, and some did not. The fact is, however, that to this very day, everyone who believes is filled with the spirit of Christmas, and God's light shines upon them. Some people say it's a miracle. Some say it's St. Nicholas, and some say it's Kris Kringle. Some people even think that Kris Kringle and St. Nicholas are the same person. But you know the real story, and I know it's all true because I was there the whole time.